As we witness the increase of wars and rumors of wars in the Middle East, we see Turkey's aggression towards Israel on the rise. And as the hostilities increase, make no mistake, God will protect Israel. All right, folks, let's get into this one. Now, I just have to tell you, as I saw the title of this story, I was almost tempted to contact Israel directly to the foreign minister's office because I have a personal connection there with the foreign minister's office. The people over there are very near and dear to me. And as a matter of fact, it's interesting. This story involves Erdogan of Turkey and, of course, the foreign minister of the nation of Israel, Katz. And many of you might know this, but I interviewed Katz, I want to say sometime around last year, maybe a couple of years prior.
We must stop Iran today in order to prevent war tomorrow.
Amen. Your reaction, Minister?
Yes, you make it very easy to me because you brought the things, my speech before 2 years.
And it was a remarkable time having a conversation with him, but I have grown very fond of him. I love him immensely and the people that work around him. I'm actually very, very close to his chief of staff, who is a very, very, very dear brother to me, who used to be the consul general of Israel. And so this story very much disturbs me on a whole bunch of levels, but yet at the same time, it almost puts a smile on my face, recognizing what Minister Katz actually did and how he handled it. Now, I just want to say this before we get into the story and before I read it. Turkey used to be so close to Israel that when Israelis wanted to go on vacation, they would go to Turkey. Turkey was their destination spot. It was a great place to relax. It was a great place to rest. It was a great place to experience lots of recreation and entertainment, and everything about that has completely changed. As a matter of fact, the type of aggression that we are watching towards Israel, matter of fact, with the international community, is becoming unprecedented. But of course, we have come to expect this because as we read Zechariah chapter 12, of course, we know that we are going to see this taking place. However, the one thing that we can definitely rest in is that God will deliver his people Israel. We know that, and we continue to see evidence of the fact that God's hand is upon the nation of Israel, and that is never going to change. Of course, that is something that I continue to praise Almighty God for. I'm thankful to the Lord that his word is true and that we can rest in knowing that God doesn't lie. He understands exactly what he's doing. So with all of that said, let me read this article to you. The title of the article is Israeli Foreign Minister Bashes Erdogan Over Censorship Using AI. This is what the article says. It says, Israeli Minister of Foreign Affairs Israel Katz responded to Erdogan's anti-Semitic claim that Western countries were, quote, taken hostage by Zionists in Israel. And I just want to stop for a second to just simply say, how insane of a statement is that? I just want to make myself clear. When somebody like Erdogan resorts to making statements like this, it is him seeking not only to pass the buck for a series of very irresponsible things that he has done that has contributed to the fall and the destruction of Turkey. We don't even want to get into that. The economics of Turkey, all the insanity that's happened with Turkey over the last several years, militaristically speaking, relationships that Turkey has established, the fact that it's killed its own economy by blind rage that has done absolutely no good for them, the fact that they have embraced Hamas as legitimate and actually righteous people when in reality they're stone cold barbaric killers. It's just amazing to me. So Erdogan continues to dig this hole, and quite frankly, I am proud of the foreign minister's response to Erdogan. He gets on X and he says this. Let me quote this. He says, quote, Erdogan, the ones taken hostage are the citizens of Turkey. Trapped in your dictatorship, you blocked Instagram for 57 million users in your country, but left access to your own Instagram account. What a great response. And we'll show you the post that he actually put up there. I think it's a great post that he put up. Here's the X post. It's right here in front of you. I just love the boldness of Israel Katz. I'll just tell you this, if you don't know anything about him, he has always been this way. As a matter of fact, the very, very first time I ever watched Israel Katz bring a speech that just, I was really blessed by it, was when he addressed the United Nations concerning the matters of Israel and Iran. It was bold, it was relevant, and it was a very powerful presentation. As a matter of fact, I would highly recommend that you would go and you would watch that address as he gave it to the United Nations. I think it was very well articulated. I think that his ability to be able to demonstrate the problem of Iran was remarkable. And of course, I think that for a long time, Israel Katz has had a really good and deepened understanding of many of the diplomatic issues that arise in the Middle East, while at the same time toting that line, because that's really what he is. He's a diplomat. He's also very bold to speak the truth, because the reality of it is you can't have diplomacy if there is no willingness to be direct about what the real issues are. And I think that's a very remarkable stand that the Foreign Minister's office is taking. And I can tell you this right now, I am very proud of Israel's Minister of Foreign Affairs. I think he continues to do a great job. I'm very proud of the stand that he takes. And quite frankly, I actually think he may one day become the Prime Minister of Israel. Don't let that escape your mind, because I think that that may very well be the case. And I, for one, will be very proud of that moment when it happens. Although I will tell you, I do really appreciate Bibi Netanyahu, and I do think on many levels he's doing a great job. And although I don't agree with everything Bibi is doing, I think that he is a blessing to Israel on a whole lot of levels. And certainly I congratulated him when he was put back into office through the assembly of a new government. It put a big smile on my face, and I very much appreciate him. But anyway, the article goes on to say this: Israeli Minister of Foreign Affairs Israel Katz slams Turkish President Erdogan on X after he lashed out on social media platform on Monday, accusing them of, quote, digital fascism for allegedly censoring images of Palestinian, quote, martyrs, and condolences over killing of Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh. That's just amazing. By the way, the whole condolences of murdering Ismail Haniyeh is insane. That's like saying I want to offer condolences for the Night Stalker after he murdered a whole bunch of people. It's a crazy way of thinking. I'll never understand it. These are the same people, by the way, that offered condolences when Abdullahian was killed and Raisi. And by the way, the United Nations stopped and offered condolences. Why? Because the United Nations is the largest terrorist organization in the world. That's my opinion, and you can take it or leave it, but that's what I think is really going on. The fact that they host these people, the fact that they give credibility to Hamas, the fact that they give credibility to the Palestinian Authority, when Mahmoud Abbas, you heard me do the translations, is in Arabic saying that basically Hitler was not a bad guy because what he did to the Jews was because they were bad people. It's ridiculous. And so when you continue to look at what's going on in Judea, Samaria, you begin to see how the Palestinian people are being affected by just lots of terrible leadership. And when you also consider that 73% of the people right now living in Judea and Samaria, if they could do it all over again, would vote for Hamas. Come on. This is absolutely crazy. And by the way, let me tell you this. What does it make you think right now of the condition of Hamas and who they are, when the person that now they are making the new political leader of Hamas is the same person that's hiding in these tunnels with hostages, seeking to kill more Jews and, yes, Americans and many other national people from different nationalities? That's exactly what's going on. Sinwar? Really? You're going to make Sinwar the president? It's ridiculous. I hate to even use the term president. Political leader makes more sense, because in reality, there is no legitimacy to Hamas, nor should there ever be legitimacy to Hamas. Their very charter declares their lack of legitimacy. Just look at even what's going on with Islamic Brotherhood in Egypt and what's going on to the south. Come on, this is ridiculous. This kind of stuff shouldn't even be given any level of credibility, but that's exactly what's going on. It goes on to say this: the Information and Communication Technologies Authority blocked access to Instagram on August 12th without providing an explanation. Government officials stated that the ban was imposed because Instagram failed to comply with Turkish regulations. By failing to comply with Turkish regulations, I think they mean that Instagram is allowing people to express free speech, especially the type of free speech that comes against the very government that these people represent. It's ridiculous. By the way, 57 million users of Instagram live in Turkey, and the population of Turkey is 85 million. I think that's going to talk about this in this article, but it's remarkable when you think of the depth of insanity that exists with all of this stuff. You tell me who the totalitarian ruler is. It goes on to say this: However, several media reports suggested the action was in response to Instagram removing posts by Turkish users expressing condolences over the killing of Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran on Wednesday, July the 31st. The quote says this: "They cannot even tolerate photographs of Palestinian martyrs and immediately ban them," Erdogan said in a speech in Ankara. He goes on to say this: "We are confronted with a digital fascism that is disguised as freedom. They are resorting to every means to hide Israel's cruelty and muzzle the Palestinian people's voices. Especially social media companies have literally become militants," he added. By the way, did you notice that Erdogan has something very, very, very strongly in common with Raisi? If you remember the address that I shared with you when we got to witness Raisi speaking to the UN, if you remember the translation that I gave you and I shared you with what he was sharing, you'll remember that he was using the same terminology that's being used on college campuses all over the United States of America. You want to know why? Because these people, people like Erdogan, are cultural Marxists. That's exactly what they are. So they're using all of these cultural Marxist type of terminology. This is a very serious issue. We see this, by the way, Iran. This is all propagated from Iran. They're using these type of terminology to be able to describe something that is absolutely not accurate. And by the way, I've said this before and I'll say it again. The most sophisticated weapon in existence is something that people like Turkey have control over, something that Gaza has control over, Hamas has control over, even Iran. And that sophisticated weapon is the New York Times or other people like them. They are taking the truth, twisting it, lying, and saying something that has no real significance to the truth. That's exactly what Erdogan is doing here, and he takes great pride in being able to do it. Look at the next paragraph here. It says Instagram has more than 57 million users in Turkey, a nation of 85 million people, according to the We Are social media company. The Electronic Commerce Operators Association estimates that Instagram and other social media platforms generate about 930 million Turkish lira. That's roughly about $27 million every single day, folks. Every single day, that's what it produces. That's a pretty significant number, okay? And that's just e-commerce alone. Katz criticized a decision to block Instagram on social media on August the 2nd, stating it showed how Erdogan is, quote, turning Turkey into a dictatorship just because of his support for murderers and rapists of Hamas against the stance of the entire free world. Let me add to Israel Katz's statements. Erdogan is a totalitarian, barbaric man. Okay, let me make myself clear. He's a man that wants to resurrect the Ottoman Empire, and he's doing everything that he can to try to do so. But I've got news for you. Turkey is being cursed again and again and again and again by God because they come against God's ancestrally chosen people, the Jews. And anytime you come against the Jews, you will be cursed by God. Genesis chapter 12 tells us that. It's a really important principle to understand. Look what it goes on to say. On August 6th, Katz responded to Erdogan's anti-Semitic claim Western countries were, quote, taken hostage by the Zionists in Israel when on X he said what he said. And I read that to you. Erdogan, speaking at an event on human rights education hosted by his Islamic AKP political party, went on to claim that social media websites were allowing all kinds of propaganda by groups considered terrorists in Turkey. Isn't it funny, by the way, that he's speaking at the Islamic AKP party? Think about this, folks. He's speaking at a gathering, an organization of terrorists. Think about the insanity. Think about the insanity and take into account the quote that Erdogan hears here. Erdogan, the ones taken hostage are the citizens of Turkey trapped in your dictatorship. You blocked Instagram for 57 million users in your country, but left access to your own Instagram account. I'm reading that twice. I read it twice on purpose because I want you to understand the weight of that terminology. I want you to understand not only is Israel Katz correct concerning his assertion regarding this issue, but his statement is a reflection of the type of totalitarian nonsense that this dictator and barbarian continues to communicate. It's very important that we recognize it. If you support Hamas, then you yourself are a barbarian. If you support Hamas, then you yourself continue to believe the lies that are being communicated. And by the way, in Islam, there are lots of lies that continue to be communicated. Let me read you something from the Quran. The Quran says this in 354, وَمَكُرُوا وَمَكَرَ اللَّهُ وَاللَّهُ خَيْرَ الْمَكَرِينَ. Think about what that says. It's referring to the Jews being deceivers, which is a complete lie. And then it goes on to say this. Allah deceived because Allah is the chief of deceivers. So think about the type of insane statement right now that's being made by Erdogan as he places accusation upon Israel in saying what they're saying. I think it's absolutely wise and unbelievably appropriate that the foreign minister is responding the way that he's responding. He should respond this way. This is completely ridiculous. Look what it goes on to say. Turkey's Transportation and Infrastructure Minister, Abdullah Kadir Uralogu, said Turkish authorities met with Instagram representatives last week and were holding a fresh round of talks on Monday. Unlike its Western allies, Turkey does not consider Hamas a terror organization. A strong critic of Israel's military actions in Gaza, Erdogan met with Haniyeh in Istanbul in April, has described Hamas as a liberation movement and repeatedly compared Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to Adolf Hitler. What an insane liar. What a complete liar. I have news for you. Erdogan is a whole lot closer to Adolf Hitler than Benjamin Netanyahu would ever be. Let me make myself clear. Remember, even Hamas says this. Hamas says the problem with Israel is that they love life. We don't. They make that very clear. They're savage animals. I'm going to correct myself. They're not savage animals because even savage animals seek to preserve their own. They have no desire to preserve their own. Let's just talk about Ismail Haniyeh for just 1 second. You remember how proud and excited he was that his own children and grandchildren were killed by Isma Allah, in the name of Allah? Think about the insanity of that type of thinking. It doesn't make sense. You have to be sick in the head. You have to be sick in the head. The Turkish leader appeared to threaten to invade Israel, saying at a meeting of his political party that Turkey must be very strong. This is the quote, very strong so that Israel can't do these things to the Palestinians. In early May, Erdogan halted his country's robust trade ties with Israel. Let me just show you how completely ignorant, foolish, and yes, stupid Erdogan's statement is here. Let me show you how crazy and out of his mind he actually is. First and foremost, he literally cut himself off at the knees when he basically said, I'm ending the trade relationship with Israel. You understand that an overwhelming percentage of all of their income, all of their revenue is coming, a good majority of their GDP is coming from trade with Israel. Because if you don't have healthy trade with Israel, you also lose trade routes. Okay, that's one thing. Here's the other thing. At the same time that he is condemning Israel and saying we have to be ready to fight them and blah, 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 and we can't let them do this to the Palestinians, he's also beating up. He is condemning Mahmoud Abbas for not showing up to this event that he invited him to, this charity event. And he's basically putting Mahmoud Abbas on notice saying you better show up. I mean, think about the craziness. So you're going to stand up for the Palestinians, and then at the same time, out of the other side of your mouth, you're going to put down Mahmoud Abbas? Let's see how well that works for you. And by the way, let me just speak the truth here. You might put a lot of weight on Mahmoud Abbas, but just understand when you start walking through the streets of Beit Lahem and Ramla and Ramallah, and you start going through all of these areas, they're all going to say the same thing. They would rather have Hamas ruling. Think about the insanity of that. Erdogan doesn't understand how to put it all together because he's crazy in the head. And quite frankly, he's very likely demonically influenced. Look at the last sentence here. It says, soon after the war in Gaza began, Turkey, a NATO member, began blocking any cooperation between NATO and Israel, which holds partner status in the military alliance. Folks, let me just say this one thing about NATO. NATO is about to fall apart in this current condition that it is in. Because when you have members like Turkey, Erdogan specifically, or other people who choose to unilaterally spark a war between another nation, Do they actually think that Article 5 is going to be invoked? Do they actually think that they're going to get other countries involved? It's not going to happen. They don't have the strength or the wisdom. They don't have the wisdom is probably the wrong word. They don't have the strength or the ability. Because if you had wisdom, you wouldn't invoke these things. They don't have the strength or the ability to be able to go to war with Israel. It will never happen. It will never happen. And by the way, the members of NATO are not going to jump in. We've seen the same dynamic taking place with what's going on with Russia. Give me a break. Nobody wants to invoke Article 5. Everybody is looking at Kamala Harris as a complete cuckoo when 2.5 years ago, she went to Zelensky and said, yeah, come on, join NATO. The Europeans are saying, are you nuts? You really want to expand NATO? You really want Russia to come in and destroy us? People are not using their heads. Even Russia was smart enough to go to Iran and say, listen, do not attack Israel. Okay? Folks, here's the bottom line with everything that I'm saying, and I want everybody to understand this because it's really critical. God is not going to let Israel suffer. He's not. The God of heaven is going to protect Israel. Look at what it tells us in Jeremiah. You see the sun and the moon and the stars in existence? Then guess what? So long as that ordinance exists, my people Israel are not going anywhere. Look at the promises of Amos. Look at what Zechariah tells us. Look at all throughout the scripture. God has never got it wrong. And I am begging you, if you're going to be on the right side of history, it's time to stand with Israel. I promise you, standing with Israel will produce the winning result. It's that simple. The facts are the facts. And I think in this particular situation, it's a reflection of a nation that is failing. That's what's happening with Turkey right now. And by the way, we know what happens with Turkey according to the Bible. We know based on Ezekiel 38 what's going to end up happening. God himself is going to destroy the nation. That's not anything that we're happy about, but we know what's coming. I think it's time to wake up. We need to recognize what's going on and realize that time is short. We better wake up and we better support what God supports. We better love what God loves. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Pray for the nation of Israel. Keep fighting the good fight and stand up for what's right. God bless you guys.